Where's the safest place in a car to put a child seat?
The safest place is where you can get a secure installation every single time. Statistically speaking, the middle seat is probably the safest. If you knew which direction your crash was coming from, you would be the farthest away from every crash direction. But we don't get to choose our crash. And oftentimes, the center seat can be the hardest spot to get a secure install. There's no lower anchorages there. It's only mandatory to have lower anchors in the outboard seating positions. And not every manufacturer allows for you to do a center seat latch install. And the seatbelt geometry in the center seat can often be really challenging to work with. So wherever it is that you can get that secure installation, whether it be with the lower anchors or the seatbelt, for your car seat every single car ride, that is the best place to put your child.
Do car seats expire?
The answer is yes, and they range. You'll typically see 6 years from the date of manufacture for an infant seat to as many as 10 years for something like an all-in-one seat. And there's two main technical reasons. One, you want seats to meet the latest and greatest federal standards that they all must comply to. You don't want a seat that was, for example, crash tested to an old standard. The second is you want to have the latest technologies to help you get a secure installation, to help keep your baby safe. So you think of all the new gizmos and gadgets that can help you get a secure installation, for example. You want those on the seat you're getting versus an old seat that might not have them.
So my toddler is rear facing, but he's pretty tall and looks a little uncomfortable. I'm wondering, when is it the safest time to switch the car seat from rear facing to forward facing?
We often hear from parents, "Oh, my child looks so uncomfortable rear facing. Their legs are really squished up. I think I need to turn them around." First of all, your child's comfort is not what you perceive it to be. Parents tend to think their child is more uncomfortable in their car seat than what their child is actually experiencing, because guess what? Our kids are way more flexible than we are. They are actually more comfortable having their knees bent and propped up or sitting crisscross applesauce in their car seat. Secondly, it's important for you to know that when your child is rear facing and they're within the rear facing height and weight limits of their seat, that is actually safer for them than turning them around too early. The most common type of crash is a frontal crash. And the back part of that car seat shell is what's going to take the brunt of those crash forces, spread it out, and protect your child. It keeps their neck and spine, which are still forming and still fragile, safe. When you turn them around forward facing too early, now the front of their body and the harness is going to be taking the brunt of that force, which also means that their head and neck is going to move into that crash. They are more likely to sustain a very serious head and neck injury forward facing than they are to sustain any lower extremity injuries rear facing. In our own crash testing, we found that when you have a 12-month-old crash test dummy in a rear-facing infant seat versus a rear-facing convertible, that they are more likely to have head contact in a frontal crash in that infant seat, because their head is just moving outside of the protection of that car seat shell. As a result, our recommendation for years has been to move your child from their rear-facing infant seat to a rear-facing convertible or all-in-one no later than their first birthday. That is to give them the extra head protection of that taller shell height. So we want you to keep them rear-facing up to the rear-facing height or weight limit of that convertible or all-in-one car seat.
Is it okay to use a hand-me-down or a second-hand car seat?
CR's recommendation is never to buy a second-hand or take a hand-me-down car seat unless you are 100% clear on its use history. If you're looking at Marketplace or a tag sale, you can never be sure, one, that that car seat was never in a crash. And as we know from all of the crash testing that we do, you can have a seat that has a lot of compromise structurally, but is not visually appearing to have any cracks or deformation in any way. The second is that you're often well into that seat's expiration date. Be very careful. You may have a seat that's already expired that you're picking up at a tag sale, and you don't want to do that unless it's a family member or someone that you're 100% sure of how it was used, that it's still within its expiration period, and that it was never in a crash. We always say, buy new.
What has been the biggest car seat innovation in the most recent years?
I would say that for crash protection, it's load legs. Load leg is a support leg that extends off the base of your car seat down to the vehicle floor. In a frontal crash, this has shown to reduce the forward motion and forward rotation of the car seat. As the car seat bears down on that leg, it is absorbing crash energy, which then minimizes how much crash forces are transferred to the child. In our own testing, we have seen a 46% reduction in head injury risk for seats that have a low leg versus those that don't.
I have to know, are more expensive car seats safer?
The answer is not necessarily. We surely have many seats in our ratings that are more reasonably priced and may not have all of the features of a more expensive seat that do super well. What a more expensive seat may have is features that can help you make adjustments and installation easier. For example, some have externally adjustable harnesses versus rethread harnesses. As long as you're still making those adjustments when you're supposed to, the safety is still there. The truth is, things like fabric and some of those ease of use features aren't necessarily what makes a seat safer. That's all about how well does this seat protect my child in a crash.
Why are hot cars especially unsafe for children compared to adults?
People don't really realize just how quickly the inside of a car can get hot, and it doesn't take much. It can be a mild temperature day, and the inside of the car can still reach over 100 degrees in just an hour's time. We found that here in our own testing, where we put cars out on the track on a partly cloudy day. Average air temperatures were around 68 to 70 degrees, and we still found that in an hour's time, the inside of the cars reached over 100 degrees. Children's bodies heat up 3 to 5 times faster than adult bodies do. Their bodies cannot efficiently thermoregulate. They can't sweat efficiently. They're not able to remove themselves to a cooler environment or hydrate themselves to help their bodies cool down. That's why we say it is never safe to leave a child unattended in a vehicle. It doesn't matter whether or not it feels cool to you outside, or it's a cloudy day, you've cracked open the windows, or you've parked in the shade. Nothing makes it safe for a child to be left alone in a car by themselves. There is technology in vehicles that's integrated to help remind you to check the back seat, and some vehicles can even go as far as to detect occupants in a vehicle after you've exited. So when you're shopping for a car for your own family, you want to make sure that the vehicle comes standard equipped and factory enabled with rear occupant alerts. It can happen to any of us. That's why we need these vehicle integrated technologies to help keep our kiddos safe.